All right, you guys, I'm going to talk you through a couple examples on our Counting Atoms worksheet. So the first one that we're going to do is the example up here. I'll talk you through it pretty quickly and then we'll practice down here. So something that we haven't talked about yet is what to do if there's not a number next to an element. So if we see something like CA, capital C, and then capital O, 3, there are 3 different elements here. We have CA is one element, C is another element, and then O is another element. So one way that I could try and figure out how many different elements there are in this formula is by looking for the capital letters. So I see 1, 2, 3 different capital letters. So I know I have 3 different elements. Ca is calcium, C is carbon, and O is oxygen. And I can figure out which element it is by using my periodic table and looking for the symbol. Okay. So now I have Ca with no number next to it. So if it doesn't have a number next to it, we're going to pretend it has a 1 next to it. Okay, that means that there's only one of that element. The C also doesn't have a number next to it, so we're going to put a 1 there. The O does have a number. It has a 3. So we're just going to copy that down here. So Ca has 1, C has 1, O has 3. Okay. Our next example down, we have C, H, and O. So I can kind of peek up here and I can see C is carbon, but H isn't there, so I have to look it up on my periodic table. And when I look at that, I find H, and H is hydrogen. H, hydrogen. O is oxygen. And then I have a subscript of 9 next to the C. So we have 9 carbons, subscript of 8 next to the H, 8. Subscript of 4 next to the O, 4. The next one down is a little bit more complicated because we're adding in parentheses. Okay? Don't let it freak you out. It's pretty easy. So the Mg does not have a number next to it, so I'm going to give it a 1. And then I see the parentheses. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take the subscript that's on the outside of the parentheses and we're going to multiply it by everything inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to take O, which would be O1, multiply it by 2, and we have 2 oxygens. And then H doesn't have a number next to it either, so it's H1 multiplied by 2. We have 2 H's. Okay. And then you would go through, complete this here, MgOH, magnesium, oxygen, hydrogen, and you'd write the appropriate number there. Looking down toward the bottom, there's one that's a little more complicated, TNT. Okay, so we have 7 C's. We have 5 H's. They don't get this 3 because they're not in the brackets, so they're all by themselves. So this one's hydrogen, 5. N does not have a number next to it, so it's a 1. But I have to multiply everything by the subscript on the outside of the parentheses. So N is 1 times 3. N is 3. O, now we have 2 inside the parentheses, so we have to take 2 times 3. So it's 6. Oxygen, 6. Okay. So you guys will complete the rest of those, and then I want to show you one more on the back. Let's look at this one down here. So for the rest of this page, pretty easy. Okay, there's no coefficient, only subscripts that we're working with. Remember that if it's a lowercase letter, it's part of the symbol of the previous capital letter. Okay, so for this one, FE is one symbol and S is another symbol. Down here is where we start to see the coefficients come in. So we're going to follow the same rules that we had on the last sheet. We're going to cover up the coefficient. We're going to figure out first how many CAs there are. Well, we're starting out with 1. Okay, it doesn't have a number next to it, so it must have a 1. The C is capital, it's by itself. It doesn't have a number next to it, so it's 1. The O has 3. All right, so that's just one molecule of that compound. Now we're going to see how many molecules do we have all together. We have 4. So I need to multiply all of these by 4 because there are 4 molecules. So 1 times 4, 4, 4, 3 times 4 is 12. Alrighty, there we go.